Hello! So today we're going to go over Unit 2, Lesson 7, Properties of Matter. If need to, make sure that you are pausing this and trying to answer the questions before moving on. If at the end of this you do not understand something still, make sure that you are sending me a K-mail so we can work through that. Alright, so properties of matter. The physical and chemical properties of a substance are used to identify the substance and to see how it will behave in the presence of another substance. So we're looking at two specific types of properties. They're either going to be the chemical property or the physical property. So they're going to fall into one of those two categories. So a physical property has to do with like the color, the appearance, stuff like that. The chemical property is going to be it's going into a new substance. So if you burn a candle, you can't get the full candle back. If metal rusts, you can't get the full metal back. Or if you burn paper, you can't get that sheet of paper back. Alright, so physical property. So what is a physical property? So physical properties can be observed or measured without changing the composition of matter. So physical properties are used to observe and describe matter. The physical properties include appearance, texture, color, odor, melting point, boiling point, the density, the solubility, the polarity, and many others. So we will go through and touch on each of those as we kind of go through here. So these are some examples of physical properties. So we have one thermal, so that's going to be how hot it is, how much it can transfer that heat. The state, so that's when we're looking at either a solid, liquid, or gas. The density of the substance, the solubility. Conductivity, this is the ability to be drawn into a wire, so think of like copper and stuff like that. And mobility is this be rolled into thin sheets, so think of like aluminum foil. Physical property. So which of these is a physical property? So conducts electricity poorly, digestible, does not burn, molds quickly, boiling point, melting point, freezing point, color. So yep, the boiling point, the melting point, the freezing point, and color are all physical properties because those are all things that we can see without changing the substance. So if we wanted to look at how much it can conduct electricity, we might have to change it some there. Digestible, you'd have to crunch it up and try to digest it. To figure out if it was going to burn or not, you would have to set it on fire. And to see how much it molds, you would have to change it as well. So, physical properties, which of these would be a physical property of object A? So object A does not rust when left outside. Object A can decompose or rot. Object A can burn. And object A is harder than object B. So when you have a question like this, you have to remember to look through and see which one of these would change the object. So we know if something rusts, you can't get that part back. Once it's rusted, it's going to stay rusted, so we can get rid of the first one. And same thing if something decomposes, or if something rots, you can't get that item back. Once it decomposes, it's gone. And same thing if you catch something on fire, if you burn something, you cannot get it back. However, you can touch an object A and see that it's harder than object B. So the answer there is going to be the last one. Okay, so physical property. We have two questions. The top one, measuring the temperature at which a heated liquid turns into vapor is which physical property? And the second one here is measuring the temperature at which a heated solid turns into a liquid is which physical property? So here there's a couple things. Let's work on the top one first. So here we know we're going from a liquid to a vapor. So liquid to gas. So what point does liquid turn into vapor? And then the second one here, we're going from a solid into a liquid. So now you gotta figure out when a solid, for example like an ice cube, at what point does it turn into a liquid? So the top one, you're looking at boiling point. So if you think about if you have water on the stove, at what point does it start to go into water vapor? It's when the water reaches its boiling point. The second one, when a solid turns into a liquid. So when an ice cube goes into liquid water, it reaches its melting point because it's melting into a liquid. Alright, so this is just a quick diagram here that shows the different physical properties. So make sure that you take a second and look over this. So let's go ahead and go into chemical properties. So what are chemical properties? A chemical property is any of a material's properties that become evident during a chemical reaction. That is, any quality that can be established only by changing a substance's chemical identity. So we're looking at kind of like the molecular level, we're changing what that substance is. So simply speaking, chemical properties cannot be determined just by viewing or touching the substance. So we have to look a little bit more into it. Alright, so which of these is a chemical property of nickel? So we're looking at density, melting point, how easy it is to bend, and its ability to rust. So can we see the density? Can we put it like a piece of nickel into water or into another liquid and kind of see where the density of it is? We can do that. It doesn't change the nickel at all. If we put heat to it and we melt it and then we cool it back down, does the nickel change? No, it stays the same if we did that. Can we bend the nickel? Yeah, you can. If it's thin enough, you can bend it and put it right back to the same shape. So all those are things that you can physically do to it. But once it rusts, can we get that nickel back? Nope. So if you see rust, automatically link that to a chemical property. All the other ones are a physical property. Alright, so which of these is a chemical property? You have boiling point, flammability, density, solubility, hardness, luster, or how shiny it is or how it reflects stuff, and brittleness. So the only one of those that is a chemical property is flammability. Because boiling point, you can let it boil and then you can condense it, so that doesn't change anything, so that's a physical property. Density, solubility, hardness, all, once again, physical. How it reflects, you can physically see that without changing the substance, so that's a physical, and same thing for brittleness. So the only one on this list that is a chemical property is the flammability. Alright, so where can elements that have similar chemical properties be found on the periodic table? So remember when we're looking, we have our groups and we have our periods. So the groups all go down, the periods all go across. So if we want to look for things that have similar properties, odds are they're going to have a similar arrangement, specifically on their valence electrons. And we can find all of those in the same groups. So remember, the red here, all these have 1 valence electrons. 2 goes to 3 here in the yellow. 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the purple, those all have a full outer ring. So they have the full octet. Okay, and helium here on the top has the 2 that fills up its first and only energy shell. So chemical properties. What part of an atom determines the chemical properties of an element? So here we have lithium. So lithium is going to be in this first group here because it has that 1 valence electron on the outside. And so we can know that it's 1 valence electron. It wants to get rid of it. So all of them in this group wants to get rid of that 1 valence electron. So the outer shell electron, or the valence electron, is what is going to determine the chemical properties. So this one here, you see, has that one valence electron, and it's going to want to get rid of it so that this next energy level is full. This type of property can be used without changing the substance into a new substance. So one type, which is a physical chemical, that you can measure and tell what type of property it is without changing it. And that is going to be your physical property. From a chemical, you're going to change it into a new substance. Physical is without changing, so that's going to be the key word there. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at if something's going to be chemical or physical property. So your freezing point, so that's when a liquid becomes a solid. So that's going to be a physical property. Flammability, if you catch something on fire, you can't undo the damage. So that's going to be a chemical. The ability to rust. So like I said, anytime you see rust, realize that's a chemical property. Hardness, you can touch something and see how hard it is without damaging it. So that is going to be a physical. Flowability, so if you have a saltwater solution, you can separate that salt from the water without damaging either one of them. So that is a physical trait. Mobility, so this is the ability to make those thin sheets. So once again, think of like aluminum foil. That's going to be a physical trait. And density, you can put something in water and see where it floats and figure out the density and compare that to the density of water, and you don't change the subject or the substance. So that is going to be a physical trait. Alright, make sure that if you have any questions over any of this, that you are sending me a K-mail. And good luck on this assessment. Thank you so much for watching.